concerns over the flu. The first day of winter is still a few weeks away, but the start of flu season appears to be here with between 1.7 and 2.5 million flu-related illnesses already reported. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, forecasts suggest that flu activity will continue to rise. There's a 40% chance it will now peak in December, which the CDC notes would be considered early compared to previous years. We are joined at the table by CBS News medical contributor, Dr. David Vegas. Doctor, good morning.
Why is this year's influenza so dangerous?
Well, there's two things that are happening right now that cause us to be a little concerned. Number one, the number of flu cases that we're detecting is much higher than we would expect to see at this point in time in any average year. And the strains that are causing the flu are ones that we would normally not expect to see until the end of the flu season. It also provides very significant protection from hospitalization and from death from influenza. And it's those extremes that we're really worried about in terms of our annual flu epidemics. You know, and I think flu oftentimes is not considered as serious a disease because we hear about it all the time. We hear about it in annual epidemics. But those numbers that you quoted should bring home to people just how serious a disease it really is.
U.S. officials now saying the flu has struck across the country, already peaking early in the season with symptoms hitting Americans hard.
Important to note on that map that all the states in gray are the ones with widespread activity. There's only two places with what they call local activity. That's D.C. and Hawaii. To help us break this down, Dr. Anthony Fauci, head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Good to see you, sir. Obviously, in D.C., we don't hear about this flu as much. Is this bad, or is this sort of normal bad?
No, it's not normal bad. This is a really bad season. If you look at it,
First, the deadly flu and the new and alarming numbers coming in from the CDC tonight. Among the worst flu season in a decade, and it hasn't peaked yet. 39 states now reporting high flu activity. 7 more children lost last week alone. 37 children dying so far this season.
More and more attention. Some local emergency room doctors are warning they really have a growing concern about the common flu. They say the flu has been affecting more and more people over just the past few weeks.
KCAL9 Orange County reporter Stacy Butler is live tonight in Costa Mesa to explain. Stacy?
In today's morning rounds, this flu season is on track to be one of the worst in recent history. In terms of the number of people infected, flu is now widespread in almost every single state, and nearly 10 million people have become ill so far. 4,800 of those people have died. Pediatric deaths are double what they were this time last year, and Dr. Tara Narula is here to help us understand why. So 32 children have died so far from the flu this year. Why is it up so much?
So it's interesting. This year, the word we use about the flu is unpredictable.
Health workers face a huge challenge trying to contain this season's flu outbreak. It is the most widespread in recent years, with at least 37 child deaths reported so far. The biggest clusters are in the South and West. Dr. Anthony Fauci is director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. He's part of the effort to fight future outbreaks. He joins us from the headquarters of the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. Dr. Fauci, good morning. Always good to see you.
The number of flu deaths this season is more than double what it was at the same time last year. 8-year-old Zainab Momin is one of the latest victims of this outbreak. She died Tuesday night in Alabama. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says at least 759 people have died from the influenza virus since October 7th. And last year, there were 322 flu deaths at this same time. The virus has been killing more than 100 people a week since mid-December. Dr. Tara Narula is here at the table. Tara, good morning. This is so troubling when you put the numbers in perspective.
It is. Good morning to you, Gail. The CDC says the rate of hospitalizations for the flu has doubled since December. Health officials and families are trying to spread the warning that the virus does not discriminate as the season continues to worsen.
Take a look. You see all that red? I mean, how could you not? That should be a red flag about just how bad this year's flu season has gotten. The CDC says influenza is widespread in all but 2 states and Washington, D.C. It's that map, that rampant spreading virus we should be worried about. But in the last week, most of what we hear about when it comes to health news is the coronavirus.
We're in
in the midst of a terrible flu season. It is proving to be one for the record books. How can you prevent the flu from entering your home, your office, your car? Joining me right now, Dr. Mikhail Varshevsky, or as we love to call him, Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike, good to see you.
Good to see you.
So first, give us the backdrop. I mean, so many people even canceled on our show. They have the flu. People that your friends, I mean, it's really bad this season.
It's really bad, and I'm glad to hear that people are canceling on the show. Not because I don't want them to come on, but because I don't want them to spread the flu. That's a big problem. You see it even in celebrity life. They'll go to the award shows, they'll get on stage, claim their award, and say, oh, by the way, I have the flu. And then 15 minutes later, they're hugging and kissing everybody,
and
signing
touching
autographs.
the mic, and somebody else touches the mic.
But that's attention-seeking behavior, is it not? Because if they had this real flu, they wouldn't be able to stand up on a stage.
Well, you're right.
I mean, the flu affects people differently, so I don't want to make judgments there too early, but I will say, if they do have the flu, horrible to go outside and spread it to people. You have to stay home, because the flu spreads through contact, through breathing. In fact, a lot of people think, oh, if I sneeze in a room, that means it can get to somebody 6 feet away. No, get this. You can sneeze in an empty room. Someone can walk in an hour later, and you flu germs are still hanging out in the air.
So, an hour later?
Yes.
So, Dr. Mike, is this flu season worse than other flu seasons? And is it because this strain is not being treated by the flu vaccine? And if yes, how do we fix that going forward?
So, great question. We don't have a perfect answer to it because we get a lot of the statistics of the flu that we have right now after the season has concluded. What we do know, this peak is an incredibly high peak. It came early and it's lasting an extra long time. So we have record number of hospitalizations, record number of pediatric deaths, and all of this is coming earlier on in the flu season than we usually expect to see.
What's so devastating about this flu? Is it the gastrointestinal distress? Is it the fever that is causing the most health risk?
Well, the way that I like to explain it is it's not the flu that really takes you down. It's the complications from the flu that takes you down. Think about your immune system as being an army, and it's fighting this infection, and it's going to fight off the infection. That's not really the worrisome if you have an intact immune system. The worry is that in the midst of having this battle, the battlefield, aka your respiratory tract, your nose, your throat, your lungs, it gets damaged through inflammation, and that can lead to bronchitis, pneumonia, and those are the serious illnesses that actually claim your life.
Yeah, these are different, things that you're getting with the flu versus a common cold. I mean,
exactly.
This is very different. Dr. Mike, great stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Mike, joining us there.
Hi, you guys. We have heard a lot about the coronavirus, but ask any emergency room doctor and he or she will tell you that it's the common flu that's concerning them.
Dr. Rachel Haley with Lee Summit Medical Center takes a look at this season so far.
We have seen dramatic spikes in flu illnesses on both the Missouri and Kansas side. In fact, our 9 care nows have recorded 1,200 cases of the flu since December 1st. And nationally, we've got approximately 9.7 million people that have caught the flu. 80,000 people have gone in the hospital, and we've had 400 deaths. What that tells us is that the flu is not benign.
Flu season now, it is back, and it's off to a deadly start. The CDC reporting elevated levels of the illness with an estimated 2.6 million cases, 23,000 people sent to the hospital, 1,300 deaths so far. Dr. Jen is here to tell us what we need to know and how we can stay healthy. Good morning.
Good morning again, Dan.
What's the latest here?
Well, the weekly flu report is out from the CDC. Take a look at the map. What you can see now is widespread flu activity in 23 states. I want to be clear, when you see a map like this, brown, yellow, orange, and you hear the word widespread, that refers to geography. If you see the pretty map with a lot of red, it's very dramatic, red, yellow, green, that refers to flu-like activity and the severity of how bad.
So once you sift through all of that coverage and just take a deep breath, let's bring the focus back to where health officials here say it should be, the flu.
One of the things that we know is that we had a particularly bad influenza season, and there's a system that they use to track influenza-like illness visits to doctors. And this season was so bad that they had to add 3 new colors. Instead of going to red, now it goes to purple. And I'm going to play for you. This is from the CDC, so let's take a look at this together. But this is their system. This is reporting for us exactly what happened there. It's their data, it's their system. And again, I'm just reporting it. I don't make this stuff up. So let's take a closer look at this and see what we've got. So this is the ILLINET system, and this is showing us the activity level over the course of the season. You see Louisiana went purple and dark red. Now Texas is purple. Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, New Mexico. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, this is a mess. And a lot of this activity was before coronavirus showed up. And then magically everything turns green and everything's just peachy. And that's just not realistic. There are rules that numbers follow, things like Benford's Law and the Gompertz Curve and things like that, that we're just not seeing with this outbreak. And so because of that, it causes us to question it. Now, we know from Dr. Fauci that the 2017-2018 outbreak of influenza in the United States was the worst in recent history. And he claims that 80,000 people died. And yet, when we look at the influenza mortality system, where what they call it is PNI, which is pneumonia and influenza, because most of the people actually die from pneumonia caused by the influenza. So they call it PNI. They don't separate the two. They just kind of combine that. So when we look at this PNI reporting that shows us 2017 season versus this year, well, this year's obviously much worse. This year's off to the right, and we see the double peak compared to 2017, which is in the middle of the chart, which Dr. Fauci says is the worst year in recent history. Well, wouldn't that make this year worse than 2017, making it remarkably bad? And if 80,000 people died of influenza in 2017, looking at this, you would think, well, gee whiz, it looks like well over 100,000 have passed away then. Looking at this system that that we're looking at right now, and this comes from the CDC. So if that's the case, why is no one talking about it? Why are they not telling everybody that there are two epidemics at the same time, that H1N1 and coronavirus are running rampant? Why is that not happening? I don't know. I'd only be speculating.